Out of Africa isn't just a movie, it's an experience. A sweeping love story set against the breathtaking landscapes of Kenya. Starring Meryl Streep and Robert Redford, and directed by Sydney Pollack, this 1985 epic took audiences on a journey of passion, loneliness, and adventure. But behind those golden sunsets and emotional performances were real-life dangers, creative clashes, and unbelievable production challenges that almost derailed the film. So here are 20 weird facts you didn't know about Out of Africa. Fact 1. The animals weren't always friendly. Those beautiful wildlife shots look peaceful, but filming them was terrifying. The cast and crew had to deal with real lions, leopards, and elephants roaming dangerously close to set. At one point, a lion charged at a vehicle during a shoot, and the driver barely managed to speed away in time. Meryl Streep once admitted she could hear hyenas laughing outside her tent at night, which wasn't sound design. It was real. The production even hired animal experts from Kenya's national parks to keep everyone safe. Yet there were still moments when wild animals wandered into scenes uninvited. One baboon famously stole lunch right off a camera cart. Fact 2. Meryl Streep almost didn't get the role. Believe it or not, the studio originally didn't want Meryl Streep for the lead role of Karen Blixen. Executives thought she wasn't glamorous enough, but director Sydney Pollack fought for her, saying her acting depth mattered more than Hollywood beauty standards. Streep later said she felt a real connection to Blixen. Both were strong, complicated women in worlds ruled by men. And when the film was released, her performance became legendary, earning her an Oscar nomination. Ironically, the same producers who doubted her later called her the movie's heart and soul. Fact 3. The crew faced brutal conditions in Africa. Filming in Kenya wasn't the exotic vacation some expected. The temperatures hit 40 degrees Celsius, the crew battled dehydration, and dust storms constantly ruined equipment. Sydney Pollack said it was one of the toughest shoots of his life. Cameras jammed, film reels overheated, and water had to be trucked in from miles away. At one point, the crew got stranded after heavy rains washed out the roads, and filming had to stop for 2 weeks. Yet these same harsh conditions gave the movie its raw, natural beauty. Every shimmering heat wave you see on screen was real. Fact 4. The airplane scene was extremely dangerous. That iconic scene where Robert Redford flies a biplane over a herd of animals wasn't done with CGI, because CGI didn't exist yet. Redford actually flew in the plane for real shots, though a stunt pilot handled the trickier parts. The biggest challenge was keeping the plane low enough to look thrilling without spooking the animals below. On one take, an unexpected gust of wind almost flipped the aircraft, sending it dangerously close to the ground. Redford later said it was one of the scariest moments of his career, but they kept rolling, and the footage ended up being breathtaking. Fact 5. The script was rewritten 12 times before. Out of Africa became the masterpiece we know. The screenplay went through 12 complete rewrites. Early drafts tried to make it an adventure story, others focused more on romance. The real-life book by Karen Blixen, writing as Isak Dinesen, didn't have a simple plot, so finding the right structure was a nightmare. Screenwriter Kurt Lutke spent almost 4 years refining it with Sydney Pollack. They even traveled to Denmark to study Blixen's journals. Ironically, the final script that won the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay was the one closest to the tone of her original writings. Poetic, emotional, and deeply personal. And trust me, the next facts are wild. From Meryl Streep's near-death encounter to how the film crew almost lost their cameras in a storm, things got seriously out of control in the African wild. So, make sure you subscribe, because the next 10 facts will absolutely surprise you. Fact 6. The rainstorm scene was real and unplanned. One of the most emotional moments in Out of Africa shows Meryl Streep and Robert Redford standing in the middle of a heavy rainstorm. But here's the twist. That storm wasn't planned at all. The crew had just finished setting up for a quiet dialogue scene when dark clouds rolled in out of nowhere. Sydney Pollack yelled to keep filming, and what followed was pure magic. The downpour added a raw, romantic tension you couldn't fake. Streep and Redford kept performing, soaked to the bone, even as the wind knocked over light stands. Pollack later said, "That was Africa giving us her own performance." It became one of the most unforgettable scenes in the movie. Fact 7. Meryl Streep's real fear of lions made one scene perfect. In one tense sequence, Karen Blixen comes face to face with a lion near her camp. Meryl Streep's trembling wasn't acting, it was real. The production used an actual trained lion, but it still acted unpredictably. Streep recalled standing completely still as the lion suddenly let out a low growl. She said, "I froze. I didn't have to perform fear, I was fear." The crew kept the cameras rolling because her genuine terror gave the shot a haunting realism. Afterward, the animal wrangler scolded the team, saying they'd come within seconds of a possible attack. That single take made it into the final cut, a moment of pure authenticity that no special effect could match. Fact 8. The cinematography changed Hollywood standards. Out of Africa won the Oscar for Best Cinematography, and for good reason. Cinematographer David Watkin used a revolutionary technique. He avoided harsh light and instead filmed during dawn and dusk, what's known as the golden hour. These times created that soft, dreamlike glow that became the film's signature look. But this meant the crew could only shoot for a few minutes each day, forcing them to plan every shot to perfection. Many Hollywood directors later copied this visual style, and it became a new standard for filming landscapes. In fact, Watkins' Kenyan light inspired other classics like The English Patient and Out of Sight. Fact 9. The love scene was almost cut from the movie. That iconic romantic scene where Redford washes Streep's hair by the river, it's one of the most talked about love scenes in film history. But the studio almost removed it. Executives thought it was too slow and lacked drama, but Sydney Pollack fought to keep it in, arguing that it was the quietest, most intimate kind of passion. The scene was shot in one day under sweltering heat, with real water from a nearby stream. Meryl Streep said it felt symbolic, like the characters were finally free from society's expectations. Ironically, this gentle, wordless moment became one of the most powerful love scenes ever filmed, a true example of less is more. Fact 10. Robert Redford changed his character's accent without telling anyone. Robert Redford originally tried a full English accent for his role as Dennis Finch Hatton, the charming British adventurer, but halfway through filming, he decided it didn't feel natural. Without warning, he switched back to his normal American tone, confusing the sound team who thought he'd made a mistake. When Pollack asked why, Redford said, "This man isn't about nationality, he's about freedom." The director eventually agreed, deciding the emotional truth mattered more than the accent. The change worked. Audiences connected more deeply with Redford's grounded, easy charm. Today, it's considered one of his most effortless and authentic performances. Fact 11. The cast and crew got sick. During filming in Kenya was beautiful but dangerous. Nearly half the crew fell ill at some point during production. The combination of heat, insects, and contaminated water caused constant problems. Even Meryl Streep got a serious case of food poisoning that left her bedridden for days. Instead of halting production, the director rearranged scenes around her recovery. Robert Redford joked that the real acting challenge wasn't performing under pressure, it was staying healthy long enough to finish a scene. Some crew members had to be flown back to the U.S. for treatment, while others powered through, working with IV drips on set. Sydney Pollack later said, "It was a miracle we finished that movie at all." Fact 12. The camp was built from scratch in the middle of the wild. Unlike most Hollywood productions, Out of Africa didn't use existing sets or studios. The crew built Karen Blixen's farmhouse and the surrounding village entirely by hand, right in the middle of Kenya's wilderness. Every wall, window, and prop was designed to look authentic to the early 1900s. Local artisans were hired to help create the furniture and tools. What's even more impressive is that the production avoided modern materials. Everything had to look and feel like it came from the colonial era. The result was so realistic that after filming, the Kenyan government decided to preserve parts of the set as a historical landmark. Fact 13. A real plane crash inspired one of the film's most tense moments. During filming, a small supply plane actually crashed nearby. Luckily, no one was killed. Sydney Pollack decided to use that real-life event as inspiration for one of the film's key scenes, where Dennis's plane struggles through turbulence. They recreated the chaos using wind machines, shaky camera movements, and terrified reactions from the cast. Robert Redford later said the memory of that real crash made him feel the danger in every flight sequence. The authenticity was so powerful that pilots who saw the film said it perfectly captured the fear of flying through unpredictable African weather. Fact 14. The film's composer created music that matched the landscape composer. John Barry didn't just write a soundtrack, he wrote music that felt alive with the spirit of Africa. He spent months studying traditional Kenyan rhythms and blending them with Western orchestral sounds. The result was one of the most emotional scores in movie history. Barry said he wanted the music to breathe with the wind and roll with the hills. The iconic main theme became instantly recognizable, grand, romantic, and bittersweet. The score went on to win the Academy Award, and many critics still call it one of the most beautiful movie soundtracks ever written. Fact 15. The director fought to keep the ending quiet and tragic. The studio originally wanted a more hopeful ending, something uplifting and romantic. But Sydney Pollack refused. He wanted the story to stay true to Karen Blixen's life, which was filled with loss and reflection. The ending, where she leaves Africa as the sun sets behind her, was filmed over 3 exhausting days to get the lighting perfect. Pollack said he wanted audiences to feel both heartbreak and gratitude. That sense of loving something so deeply that it hurts to let it go. The choice paid off. Critics praised the ending as haunting, poetic, and honest. It gave the film its lasting emotional power. You've seen the beauty and heartbreak of Out of Africa, but the wildest facts are still ahead. From off-screen romances to how this movie almost destroyed its own budget, the next part dives into the chaos, danger, and passion that made this film legendary. Stay tuned, because the final stretch will leave you amazed. Fact 16. Meryl Streep did her own dangerous horse riding. Many of the film's sweeping horseback scenes were done by Streep herself, without a stunt double. She trained for weeks to learn proper riding posture and control in open terrain. The challenge wasn't just the riding, it was the unpredictable African landscape. The horses were easily spooked by sudden animal sounds, especially lions roaring in the distance. During one take, her horse bolted after hearing a gunshot, throwing the crew into panic. But Streep held on and stayed in character until Pollack called cut. Everyone applauded afterward, calling her a true professional. Pollack even said later, Meryl never once asked for special treatment. She wanted to live the part. Fact 17. Robert Redford and Sydney Pollack argued constantly on set. Even though they'd worked together before, Redford and Pollack clashed over almost everything during Out of Africa. Redford wanted his character to be more mysterious and emotionally distant, while Pollack wanted a warmer, more open portrayal. Their arguments sometimes lasted for hours before a single scene was filmed. Despite the tension, both men respected each other deeply. Pollack later said that Redford's resistance made the character feel more real, while Redford admitted that Pollack's direction shaped the film's soul. It was a creative clash that ended up producing one of the most nuanced performances of Redford's career. Fact 18. The crew nearly lost all their footage in a storm. Halfway through filming, a violent storm hit the production base. Torrential rain and strong winds tore through the tents, flooding equipment and damaging film reels. For hours, the crew fought to save their work. Some of the exposed film had to be air-dried and restored manually by technicians. Sydney Pollack later revealed that if they hadn't acted quickly, months of footage could have been ruined. The experience bonded the crew even more, Many said it was the moment they realized they weren't just making a film, they were surviving one. Ironically, the storm's lighting and cloud formations inspired the tone of several later scenes. Fact 19. A real romance may have happened. Behind the camera, rumors swirled throughout production that Meryl Streep and Robert Redford had developed a deep, off-screen bond. While both have denied a romance, crew members noticed a natural chemistry that went beyond acting. They spent long evenings rehearsing lines under the stars, often discussing life, art, and love. Sydney Pollack said their friendship created a quiet electricity that translated perfectly to the screen. Whether or not anything romantic actually happened, their genuine connection gave the love story a realism that audiences could feel. Critics later called their on-screen relationship one of the most believable in cinema history. Fact 20. The movie changed how the world saw Kenya before. Out of Africa, few major Hollywood productions had been shot in Kenya. The movie's success drew global attention to the country's stunning landscapes. Tourism increased dramatically after its release. Thousands of fans wanted to visit the coffee farms, savannas, and hills shown in the film. The Kenyan government later credited Out of Africa with helping revive its tourism industry in the late 1980s. Even decades later, safari companies still advertise Out of Africa tours, taking visitors to the exact filming locations. The film didn't just tell a love story, it became a love letter to Africa itself. Outro, ending. And that wraps up Out of Africa, 1985. 20 weird facts you didn't know. Behind its breathtaking beauty was a production filled with danger, exhaustion, and real emotion. Every sunrise, every storm, every performance came at a cost, but the result was unforgettable. The film went on to win 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and remains a symbol of what cinema can achieve when it's shot with heart and courage. If you enjoyed exploring the secrets behind this masterpiece, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because the next video will uncover the wild, unseen truths behind another legendary classic that changed Hollywood forever.